Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. What's behind the claims that Bangladesh is facing sudden floods because of India? India has called these claims factually incorrect. On Gravitas tonight, we decode the story and join the dots for you. We tell you all about the new arms race. As per reports, China, Taiwan, Australia, South Korea are ramping up their military capabilities. We tell you all about this. Will the Iran-Israel conflict spread beyond West Asia? What really lies ahead? What happened on day 3 of the Democratic National Convention? What were the key takeaways? We get you a special report. All this and more lined up for you tonight. Our top story tonight is about Bangladesh. As tensions and turmoil roil the country, its social media has been replete with stories blaming India for the floods in the country. There are claims that Bangladesh is facing sudden floods due to the opening of a dam. But just because the internet is saying that, or there are claims, does not make that true. In fact, it is not true. In a press release today, the Indian External Affairs Ministry has categorically denied the charge, saying that the reports are factually not correct. There's also something deeply troubling about these allegations. It is unprecedented for such severe accusations to be directed at India, given the profound history of ties, culture, friendship, tradition that Bangladesh and India share. So then what's really going on and what explains all of this? Who is spreading these lies? Why? Who is spreading anti-India propaganda against India in Bangladesh and beyond? India has denied the allegations circulating online, attributing the flooding to the incessant rainfall in the catchment areas downstream. However, that has done little to quell the anger in Dhaka. In fact, a minister in Bangladesh's interim cabinet has accused India of quote-unquote inhumanity for opening the gates without prior notice, he alleges. On Thursday, the Bangladesh Information and Broadcasting Advisor Nahid Islam said, and I'm quoting, India has shown inhumanity and non-cooperation by opening the dams without any advance warning, quote unquote. He is a prominent student leader of the quota reform movement. He also said, in fact, urged India to stop its anti-people policy, quote unquote. He claimed that Bangladesh's people and students were angry with this policy of India. And that's not even all. Bangladesh media are reporting that the flooding was due to, they claim, the opening of the Dambur Dam in Tripura, and as a result, protests have been held by students who have issued warnings to New Delhi. Social media is also filled with posts claiming that this was a deliberate act by India. India, in its press release, has countered this. It explained that the catchment areas of the Gomti River, which spans both India and Bangladesh, witnessed the heaviest rains of this year over the last few days. going on to say that the flood in Bangladesh is primarily due to waters from these large catchments downstream of the dam. That's what the Indian government statement says. But that has not stopped the issue from becoming the latest flashpoint between the two sides. On the same day, Bangladesh's interim government chief advisor, Mohammad Yunus, met with the Indian High Commissioner, Pranay Verma. New Delhi described the meeting as a normal call-on. This meeting came minutes after Yunus met his senior colleagues over the unprecedented floods that the country is facing. But ahead of Yunus's meeting with the Indian High Commissioner, Bangladeshi media reported the meeting as a summoning, which, as you know, implies a stern diplomatic rebuke. But even as anti-India sentiment exploded online, the facts seem to escape what's very obvious. The Dambar Dam is located in the northeastern Indian state of Tripura. It has a modest height of 30 meters. It is positioned 120 kilometers upstream from the Bangladeshi border. The dam is mainly used for power generation. That means it generates electricity, 40 megawatts of which is supplied to Bangladesh. Further, India has 3 water level observation sites along the 120-kilometer stretch of the river from the Dambar Dam to the Bangladeshi border at Amarpur, Sonampura and Sonamura too. The Amarpur station is part of a bilateral protocol under which India provides real-time flood data to Bangladesh. Therefore, in the event of heavy inflow, automatic releases have been observed. To put it on record, India has stated that data on the rising water levels from Amarpur was shared with Bangladesh until 3 p.m. on August 21, after which communication was disrupted. It's because due to flooding, there was a power outage leading to communication problems. Nevertheless, communication was maintained through alternative means established for urgent data transmission. Tripura's Power Minister, Ratan Lal Nath, had also posted on his verified Facebook page at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday evening that no gate of the Gumti hydroelectric project has been manually opened. He posted in Bengali saying the reservoir's capacity is up to 94 meters. Once the water level exceeds this limit, the gates will automatically release water. Conversely, if the water level drops below 94 meters, the gates will automatically close. He said that there was no reason to unnecessarily panic about this, urging the people of the concerned areas to be alert. At every point, due diligence was observed. Why is India being blamed then for the flooding in Bangladesh? In fact, floods on common rivers are always a shared problem. As noted by the MEA, it inflicts suffering on people on both sides. It requires close mutual cooperation for resolution. Bangladesh has a unique problem as far as flooding is concerned, as at least 80% of the country is floodplain. The country is densely populated and low-lying, which also makes it prone to seasonal rainfall, flooding, cyclones. In fact, every year, about 3.5 million Bangladeshis are at the risk of river flooding. So are the millions of Indians living in the flood-prone areas of India, such as Assam, Tripura, with first-hand experience in dealing with floods? Every year, India rushes to help millions of Bangladeshis stranded and displaced due to the floods. So then what's really behind this anti-India sentiment? Is it all part of a larger propaganda? You see, over the past few months, the anti-India sentiment has been brewing. Earlier this year, a group of Bangladeshis launched an India Out campaign that falsely accused India of interfering in its neighbors' politics. New Delhi was concerned. You see, it's not just the fake news. We are getting disturbing reports that the Hindu community is being targeted in Bangladesh. Reports about how Hindu teachers are being forced to resign from schools and colleges. This is extremely worrying. Surely, this is not what the students fought so hard for. Who is fueling this hatred? Who is fueling fake news? Who is spreading anti-India sentiment? Just a short while back, I spoke with former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Ambassador Veena Sikri, to get her perspectives on this entire matter. Here's what she had to say.
So we're a little puzzled about this strong and very persistent anti-India campaign at the grassroots level. But maybe it's just a few vested interests, and we hope that with the active support of the interim government in Bangladesh, we'll soon be able to continue with so many of the aspects of cooperation that have started between India and Bangladesh, dating back decades, and certainly also in the last 10 to 15 years.
Shifting focus for now, are we witnessing an alarming shift, a new arms race in Asia and beyond? Is this going to transform into a nuclear threat? Let's tell you what we are talking about. As per reports, China, Taiwan, Australia, South and North Korea are ramping up their military capabilities, seemingly preparing for a future filled with uncertainty and tension. Let's begin with North Korea, which showcased the delivery of 250 nuclear-capable missile launchers to its frontline military units at a ceremony earlier this month, allegedly to deter threats from the United States. The launchers North Korea unveiled were reportedly produced by its munitions factories, designed to fire tactical ballistic missiles. In other words, weapons that could deliver lower-yield nuclear warheads with devastating consequences. As per reports, Kim Jong-un said at the event that these new launchers will give his forces firepower over South Korea. The question is, what does Kim Jong-un really want? Is he trying to force the US to accept North Korea as a nuclear power, or is this about something else? Kim Jong-un, remember, has demonstrated a willingness to place battlefield nuclear weapons along the border with South Korea, even authorizing preemptive nuclear strikes if he perceives a threat to his leadership. Whatever the motive might be, the implications are terrifying. The specter of a nuclear conflict on the Korean Peninsula is no longer a distant threat. It's a growing possibility, it seems. Let's also turn our attention to China. Reports stating that Beijing has equipped a Type 071 amphibious transport dock ship with a laser-directed energy weapon, a laser weapon. This sounds right out of a sci-fi movie, right? But this is now a reality on the high seas. What does that signify? Is China preparing for a future where conventional weapons are not sufficient? And if so, what would all of this mean for the balance of power in the region? These questions loom large as the People's Liberation Army continues to race against global rivals, particularly the US, to develop advanced weapons that can counter drones, satellites, and other sophisticated systems. Moreover, this development follows years of China experimenting with tactical laser systems similar to those deployed by the US Navy. But what are the broader implications? There's more, by the way. Amid constant tensions with China and the possibility of an invasion as near as 2027, Taiwan is reportedly increasing its defense budget by 7.7% next year, outpacing its economic growth. The government's expectation for economic growth is 3.26% for the year, and the defense budget is more than double that. As per reports, the budget is aimed at procuring new fighter jets and enhanced missiles to deter the rising threat from China. This move, while understandable given the pressure from Beijing, raises serious questions. Is Taiwan preparing for an inevitable clash? What does the budget increase signal to China, and will it be enough to deter Beijing's ambitions? Australia, meanwhile, a key US ally in the region, is also not sitting idle. As per reports, Australia has announced plans to jointly manufacture long-range naval strike missiles and joint strike missiles with Norway's Kongsberg Defence. The production will take place in Newcastle, located in eastern Australia. Production of these missiles is expected to commence by 2027. As per reports, the objective of this new missile is to enhance the Australian Defence Force's long-range precision strike ability amid the rising tensions in the region. But what does this really mean for Australia's role in the region? Is Australia, with the backing of the US, positioning itself as a military powerhouse in the region? And how will China respond to that? And then there is South Korea. The US and South Korea are reportedly conducting large-scale joint military exercises, which North Korea has reportedly called a rehearsal for invasion. The drills coming at a time when the Korean Peninsula is already tense, with both sides ramping up military activities. But is this really about defense? Or are we inching closer to a full-blown conflict? How much longer can this cycle of provocation and response continue before it spirals out of control? And let's not forget that these developments are not taking place in isolation. They are part of a broader, more disturbing trend. According to reports, a nuclear strategy approved by US President Joe Biden earlier this year aims to simultaneously deter nuclear threats from China, Russia, and North Korea. You see, the stakes are high, and the consequences of a miscalculation could be catastrophic. Espionage is one of the biggest wartime tools, and China appears to have already deployed this tool in Southeast Asia and beyond. Tonight, we bring you two spy stories. Both involve China. The first story is playing out in the Philippines, where a relatively unknown mayor of a sleepy town has gone missing. Her name is Alice Go. She is 33 years old. In the year 2022, she was elected as the mayor of Bamban. In fact, she was the first ever female mayor of the town. The people loved her. But no one really knew much about her. She was young. She would distribute gifts on Christmas. The locals would call her Robin Hood. Many idolized her. Go would vlog all day, talk about her day in her life, show off her pet Pomeranian, the stickers on her calculator, her favorite shampoo, her love for the color pink. For the Filipinos, it was refreshing to have a young, social media savvy, Louis Vuitton tote carrying mayor. But who really was Ms. Go before she became a mayor? No one really knew. She said she grew up sheltered in her family's pig farm in Bamban. Under her mayorship, the town was growing, it was attracting investment, until in March, the story took a sharp turn. There was a raid at an office compound in Bamban. At least 1,000 workers were found in the office. Among them were victims of human trafficking. This office compound was just 100 meters from the mayor's office. Inside this compound, investigators also found luxury villas, panic rooms, a large swimming pool, expensive alcohol, tortoises, high-end cars, and 3 underground tunnels. Let me repeat that, 3 underground tunnels. And this is where Ms. Go comes into the picture. The underground tunnels led to a vacant plot, and this vacant plot was owned by the mayor. In fact, a car found in the shady compound was registered in her name. Upon digging further, investigators also found that 50% of the compound was owned by Alice Go. The mayor became central to the investigation. What the investigators would find would leave them scrambling for answers. Turns out, Alice Go, the beloved mayor of Bamban, was a mystery. For starters, her birth certificate was not registered until she was 17. The document bears the name of one Amelia Leal as Go's mother. Authorities found no Amelia Leal in their records. Go's father is listed as Filipino. This was contrary to what she has previously claimed. The mayor always maintained that her father was Chinese. Alice Go claimed she knew influential politicians, but these politicians say they never heard of her. She would also say that she was homeschooled by one teacher, Rebellion. Turns out that was a lie as well. There was no teacher, Rebellion. But there were records of Alice Go attending a regular school in the Philippines' Quezon City. Former pupils of the private school remember a classmate named Go Huaping. Philippines Immigration Bureau has records of a Chinese citizen by the same name. They also have a Chinese birth certificate which lists Go Huaping's parents as Chinese nationals. And what's more, reports say Go's fingerprints match those of a Chinese national. So is Alice Go Huaping? You see, this entire case has left the Philippines puzzled to the core. Where did she come from? Asked Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the month of May. In July, Alice Go skipped a Senate hearing. Her lawyer said Go was traumatized. So who really was Alice Go? Was she a Chinese spy? Did a Chinese spy infiltrate a mayoral office? How could the Philippines make such a blunder? How exactly did this even happen? These are some of the questions that Filipinos are asking. Along with, where is Alice Go now? She has not been seen since July. Filipino officials say Alice has left the country. She escaped over a month ago. Did her Chinese handlers ensure Alice Go gets a safe passage out of the Philippines? Let the story sink in as I tell you the second spy story for tonight. This story begins in China. The year is 1989. Beijing's Tiananmen Square has been flooded by students, young people, all demanding pro-democracy reforms in China. These protesters have been camping in Tiananmen Square for weeks. Among them was a youngster named Tang Yuanjun. He had come all the way from the northeastern Jilin province to join the protesters at Tiananmen Square and press the Chinese authorities for reform. On the 4th of June 1989, Beijing sent tanks to fight the students. The movement was massacred, protesters were killed, many of them arrested. What happened to Tang? No one knows. He is making headlines today. Tang has been arrested in the United States. He has been charged with spying for China. How did a pro-democracy activist become a Chinese spy? Well, turns out the Chinese authorities had arrested Tang during the Tiananmen Square crackdown. The youngster was sentenced to 20 years in jail, but he was released after 8 years. Tang did not give up his fight for democracy, though. He continued advocating for reform, protesting China's one-party system. Tang kept getting detained, harassed. In early 2000s, Tang fled to Taiwan. Subsequently, he was granted asylum in the US, and soon, Yuanjun Tang started living in New York City. Reports say the Chinese got to him. They told Tang if he wants to visit his family in China, he must do some tasks for China's Ministry of State Security. What kind of tasks? Well, Tang was told to be China's eye in America. Between 2018 and 2023, Tang regularly received instructions from his handlers. They would send him encrypted emails. Sometimes they would contact him using encrypted chats. Tang would receive photographs, videos, documents detailing his task. Tang was told to keep an eye on people and groups that were viewed as anti-China. The man who was once a Tiananmen Square protester now started spying on Chinese dissidents and pro-democracy Chinese activists in the United States. On at least 3 occasions, he held face-to-face meetings with officers of the Chinese ministry. Tang even helped these officers in joining encrypted messaging applications that Chinese dissidents use. Yuanjun Tang was arrested on Wednesday. He is now 67 years old and a naturalized US citizen. The US Department of Justice has said, and I'm quoting here, Tang was charged by criminal complaint with acting and conspiring to act in the United States as an unregistered agent of the People's Republic of China and making materially false statements to the FBI, quote unquote. Did American mercenaries help Ukraine breach Russia's border? Or was it the result of the blunder of one Russian general that left the Russian borders vulnerable to the Ukrainian assault? It has been over 2 weeks since Ukrainian troops launched a surprise cross-border assault in Russia's Kursk region. But shocking new details continue to emerge that the assault has been witnessed so far. Number one, destroy 3 key bridges in Russia. 2, claim control over 1,200 square kilometers of Russian territory. And 3, turn the tables on Russia by dropping a guided glide bomb on Russian territory for the first time. New details that could potentially turn the tide of the war in Ukraine. You see, 2 days ago, Russia reportedly summoned the US charge d'affaires in Moscow. Stephanie Holmes, the American diplomat, was issued a démarche over the alleged involvement of an American private military company in Ukraine's incursion into Kursk. This so-called private military company has been identified as the Forward Observation Group. On Instagram, they had previously posted a photo of its members dressed in military gear and holding weapons, claiming that they are taking part in Ukraine's attack on the Russian border region. In fact, the soldiers in the picture are seen wearing blue armbands, which are reportedly worn by Ukrainian troops on the battlefield. According to a press release published on the Russian Foreign Ministry's website on Tuesday, this is evidence that contradicts claims made by US President Joe Biden that the US was not involved in the attacks. Russia says that this clearly shows US role as a direct participant in the conflict. As mentioned earlier, Ukraine's offensive in Kursk, which is its largest cross-border incursion into internationally recognized Russian territory, started earlier this month. However, the Russian Defense Ministry has since claimed that the Ukrainian advance has been halted. The Russian military also estimates Kiev's losses at more than 4,100 troops. For now, heavy fighting is underway in Kursk. After evacuating the residents and digging trenches, the Russian authorities started installing concrete shelters to help protect civilians. Local news channels showed concrete shelters being placed in central areas of Kursk. Russian President Vladimir Putin is also reviewing the situation in the border regions. During the briefing, he accused Ukraine of trying to strike the Kursk nuclear power plant.
The enemy tried to strike at the nuclear power station last night. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been informed. They promised to come themselves, to send specialists to assess the situation. I hope that in the end, this will be done on their part.
You see, Ukraine has closely guarded its goals in Kursk, but has said that it has carved out a buffer zone from an area that Russia has used to pound targets in Ukraine. By launching the attack on Kursk, Ukraine has been able to turn the war on its head in a way. As a result, the Russian defense minister has established 3 troop groups in the border regions as Ukraine continues its offensive there. The 3 troop groups are named after the regions of Belgorod, Bryansk, and Kursk, and they will be responsible for defending the Russian residents as well as the territory against attacks by drones and other means. Russia has also set up a special working team to collect, analyze and forward the information from various regions and to supervise their resolution. But could the Russian generals have avoided this embarrassment? Did the blunder of a single man cost the Kremlin major embarrassment in Kursk? Here's why we asked that question. Earlier this year, Russia's new military appointee overseeing security in the Kursk province had dismantled a council that was tasked with protecting the vulnerable border region. We're talking about Colonel General Alexander Lepin. Dissolving the council, Lepin had said that the military alone had the power and the resources to protect Russia's border. And now analysts are saying that the decision of Lepin left a big hole in Russia's border defenses. They say that this is why Ukrainian troops who crossed the border found Russian troops in a state of disarray. Of course, it's not like Lepin alone opened the gates to the first foreign invasion of Russian territory since World War II, but his misstep is being blamed for the situation that has resulted in Russian troops fighting hard to oust the Ukrainian forces from their territory. All things considered, Ukraine's unprecedented assault into Russia is potentially forcing a rethink of how this war is being fought. Experts say that Ukraine's advance will push the Russian military leaders to think about investing into protecting the country's border. For so long, they have focused only on putting troops into Ukraine, and they have huge advantages, by the way. The Russians never had to deal with protecting the borders or the infrastructure, but the situation now is rapidly changing. And how it will end is far from clear. We now shift our focus to West Asia, where the lines of conflict now are not just limited to the region, it seems. They may have reached the heart of North America. As we dissect the escalating violence, it's crucial to understand how these events are connected to the recent developments. Let's now break down the latest coming in from the Israel-Lebanon border. As per reports, Hezbollah has launched a barrage of rockets into Israel's Golan Heights, following an Israeli airstrike deep inside Lebanon. The Israel military reported that its overnight airstrike targeted Hezbollah's weapons storage facilities in the Bekaa Valley. According to the Lebanese Health Ministry, this attack resulted in 1 death and 30 injuries. And in retaliation, Hezbollah, which receives backing from Iran, launched a rocket barrage at Israeli military positions in the Golan Heights. Israeli officials confirmed that the rocket strikes damaged 2 homes and caused 1 injury. As per reports, more than 50 rockets were fired towards Israel. So is this just a sporadic outburst, or is this part of a calculated move by Iran, using its proxy to try and destabilize Israel, while it considers its plans for a direct confrontation? Experts say that Tehran sees an opportunity to weaken Israel with the help of its proxies like Hezbollah and expand its influence across the region. By backing Hezbollah, Iran is making its intentions clear while buying time before it takes a call on attacking Israel, it seems, and also in which manner. One that could lead to a potential all-out regional catastrophic war. This leads us to the United States, which, remember, has beefed up its military presence in West Asia by repositioning its aircraft carriers and submarines to deter an Iranian attack on Israel. But here's the question. Is the US truly committed to preventing a war, or is it merely pushing an ambiguous narrative on the Gaza ceasefire? We ask that because the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, on his 9th visit to the region since the Gaza war started, on several occasions, has said that there has been progress in the ceasefire talks and the deal is inching ever so closer. In fact, Blinken went a step further and said that Israel has accepted the terms of the deal and the onus was now on Hamas. Across multiple reports, Hamas has said that it does not accept the existing terms of the ceasefire deal, labeling it lopsided towards Israel. The sticking point reportedly being two important corridors in Gaza, the Philadelphia corridor that borders Egypt and the Netzarim corridor that divides Gaza into two. Just to put it simply, Israel wants control over both of these corridors, allegedly to prevent Hamas from rearming and preventing a repeat of the October 7 attack. That's the claim. While Hamas, on the other hand, says that this is a chokehold to expand Israel's own interests. It's not just Hamas that is against the ceasefire deal, even Israel is. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly told the families of Israeli hostages in Gaza early this week that a ceasefire deal is unlikely to materialize due to the disagreement over these two corridors, and that he will prioritize Israel's strategic interests. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden, in a phone call with Netanyahu, highlighted the importance of a ceasefire and hostage deal. Additionally, he called for the removal of any remaining obstacles during the upcoming ceasefire talks in Cairo. As per reports, no dates for the talks in Cairo have been released yet. So what are we supposed to make of the latest developments? The short answer is nothing. Experts said that even if the US has projected bridging the gap of Hamas and Israel over Gaza, both sides are openly stating otherwise. As these tensions continue to unfold, the ripple effects are being felt far from the battlefields. As per reports, in Canada, over 100 Jewish institutions received bomb threats. Although no bombs were found, nobody has taken responsibility so far. The threats are part of a disturbing pattern of anti-Semitic attacks across the country. According to reports, this year, synagogues have been vandalized, schools have been shot at, and there was even an arson attack on a synagogue in Vancouver. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the threats, calling them blatant anti-Semitism. But here's the hard question. Are these attacks merely the work of fringe extremists, or are they symptomatic of a broader global rise in anti-Semitism? These are not just regional issues anymore. They may just have become global. So we leave you with this. What does real peace look like? And who is truly committed to achieving this? The answers to those questions may determine not just the future of West Asia, but the safety and stability of communities far beyond the borders. On day 3 of the Democratic National Convention, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz formally accepted the party's vice presidential nomination. The 60-year-old running mate of Kamala Harris vowed that he and Harris would triumph over Republican Donald Trump in the November election. Several big names, including Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Oprah Winfrey, also took to the stage. Take a look.
Day 3 of the Democratic Convention kicked off with a first-of-its-kind Vedic prayer, where the priest sought blessings for a united country.
Om samani vahaku otis samana hridaya nivaha.
The Minnesota governor, who was little known in America till 15 days ago, acknowledged he had never given such a big speech, but said that as a former high school football coach, he gave a lot of pep talks. But before Walz spoke, players from the team he helped coach to a state championship decades ago ran on stage, some wearing jerseys from their old high school.
Kamala Harris is experienced and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time. 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time. Look, we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead. We're going to leave it on the field. That's how we'll keep moving forward. That's how we'll turn the page on Donald Trump. When we fight, thank you.
Walz opted not to address criticisms of his long personal history with China. Instead, the Minnesota governor spent his concise 20-minute speech pushing the party's slogan of freedom and support for the middle class. He lashed out at Trump, calling him weird and dangerous. Earlier, former President Bill Clinton also took multiple digs at Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. Clinton also joked that Harris could break his McDonald's record at the White House.
I'll be so happy when she actually enters the White House as president, because she will break my record as the president who spent the most time at McDonald's.
In a no-holds-barred speech, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made a reference to the Capitol Hill riots case and accused Trump of trying to steal democracy on January 6, 2021.
In the Congress, we must choose leaders who believe in free and fair elections, who respect the peaceful transfer of power. The choice couldn't be clearer. Those leaders are Vice President Harris and Governor Walz.
But perhaps the most rousing speech was from a surprise guest, Oprah Winfrey. The Chicago-based talk show host urged independent voters to support Kamala Harris. Without mincing her words, she took a jab at Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance's childless cat lady remark.
When a house is on fire, we don't ask about the homeowner's race or religion. We don't wonder who their partner is or how they voted. No. We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady, well, we try to get that cat out too.
Outside the convention, hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters, including parents with children atop their shoulders, streamed into the Union Park on the third day of the DNC. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about a sad reality. It is about two shocking stories, both revolving around the safety of women and girls. A trainee doctor in India's Kolkata was raped and murdered at her workplace, a government-run hospital. Since the Kolkata rape and murder case came to light, there have been a series of crimes against women, of course, a series of incidents that once again lead us to the big question. Are women not safe anywhere? Let me tell you what happened in the state of Maharashtra in India. The management of a school at Badlapur in the state's Thane district earlier suspended its principal and two staffers in connection with the alleged sexual abuse of two girls. On August 17, the police arrested a school attendant at the school for allegedly abusing two girls studying in the kindergarten. As per the complaint, he abused the girls in the toilet of the school. Angry parents of the school children staged a blockade at the local railway station, seeking stringent action against the accused. The girls had told their parents that the attendant touched them inappropriately, following which a complaint was filed and a case was registered against him under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. This is just heartbreaking. In fact, the Bombay High Court on Thursday called the sexual assault on 2 minor girls at their school in Badlapur absolutely shocking and said that there cannot be any compromise on the safety and security of girls, also saying that action ought to be taken against the school authorities for not reporting the incident despite being aware of it. It also slammed the police over the delay in registering the FIR. The bench said it was not at all happy with the manner in which the police handled the case and that they were only interested in seeing that the victim girls get justice, and this is exactly what the police should have also been interested in. The bench directed the police to ensure all support is given to the victims and their families, and that the victims should not be victimized further. Meanwhile, a 3-member bench led by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud was hearing a suo motu case related to the alleged rape and murder of the postgraduate doctor in Kolkata. The Supreme Court termed extremely disturbing the Kolkata police's delay in registering the unnatural death of the woman doctor. It also asked the protesting doctors to resume work and assured them that no adverse action would be taken after they rejoin. One of the remarks made was, quote unquote, "I have not come across a case like this in my last 30 years. Bengal is not following the Criminal Procedure Code." The CBI on Thursday sought a polygraph test on former RG Kar Medical College principal Sandeep Ghosh and 4 other doctors in connection with the alleged rape and murder of the postgraduate trainee at the hospital. The CBI took Ghosh and 4 other doctors who were on duty on the date of the incident to a special court for seeking its permission to conduct the lie detection test on them. They said that the lie detection test can only be done after permission from the court and the consent of the suspect. Earlier in the day, the CBI alleged in the Supreme Court that there was an attempt by the local police to cover up the rape and killing of the postgraduate medic, as the crime scene was altered by the time the federal agency took over the investigation. The fact is, what we are witnessing is extremely tragic and infuriating. Are women and girls not safe anywhere? A hospital, a school, out in the streets, anywhere? Shifting focus for now, the moon remains a mystery. Despite our multiple moon missions, we haven't been able to answer some of the most critical questions regarding the national satellite. Is there life on moon? Was there ever life on moon? India's moon mission Chandrayaan-3 has found evidence to support the theory that there was once an ocean on moon. It was an ocean of magma or liquid rock. You see, ever since scientists began studying moon rocks, they have believed in a theory called LMO, or the Lunar Magma Ocean Theory. Scientists believe when the moon was formed 4.5 billion years ago, it was molten and covered with a magma ocean. The lighter anorthosite rock floated above and formed the moon's crust. The heavier minerals, scientists believe, formed the moon's mantle and core. But for this theory to be validated, scientists needed moon rocks from different parts of the satellite. In August last year, India's Chandrayaan-3 landed on the part of the moon that no one had been able to previously reach. That's the South Pole. Chandrayaan-3's rover Pragyan roamed the unexplored area of the moon for 10 long days. It studied the surface. India is now analyzing the findings and helping the world join the dots of this long-standing hypothesis. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
America's Democratic National Convention underway. Together, Biden takes center stage amid "We Love You, Joe" chants.
She knows that tonight is Joe Biden's night. Kamala Harris is the right person to beat Donald Trump.
POTUS calls on Americans to save democracy.
Democracy has delivered. And now democracy must be preserved.
Teary-eyed Biden embraces Harris and Walz. America's race to power on WION World is One.
Shortly after declaring it a global emergency, the World Health Organization is rushing to find vaccines to control the spread of Mpox as other countries, including Sudan, declare another problem, cholera. Anger and protests spread in Tunisia over the detention of several opposition figures and critics of the president, despite the country's election commission declaring October 6th as the polling day, with Kais Saied running for a new term. And Ethiopia's traditional sauna therapy gains big city popularity, with Addis Ababans creating a buzz on social media about the benefits. World of Africa at these times on WION.
Ukraine's grinding counter-offensive continues. Russia advances in Pokrovsk amid Ukraine's gains. Will Zelensky's buffer zone tactic pay off, or has Ukraine walked into Putin's trap? Continuous coverage on WION.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Electrifying DNC Day 3.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Kamala Harris for the people, and the other guy who's proved even more than the first go-around.
Surprise speaker Oprah Winfrey calls Harris best of America, swipes at Vance's childless cat lady.
It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
Catch all the latest DNC updates on WION World is One.
After a historic visit to Poland, PM Modi heads to Ukraine. The first Indian leader to visit the country in nearly 30 years. The key visit comes amid escalating Russia-Ukraine conflict, as India pushes for peace. Full coverage from the ground, only on WION. This week on the West Asia Post. Diplomatic efforts have been scaled up to avert a wider regional war. The US is pressing Israel to plug the gaps in the ceasefire deal. The Hamas is calling for implementing the terms agreed on Gaza. Meanwhile, without a truce deal in Gaza, Iran has warned that it will attack Israel. And as West Asia remains on edge over a potential escalation of the conflict, this UAE city is only getting richer. This and more on the West Asia Post.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to